Happy Pride, San Francisco! Are you ready for June? Yes. We're reopening. City Hall is open. It's an honor to MC today. My name is Claire Farley. I'm the Executive Director of the Office of Transgender Initiatives, the first and only trans-led and focused government office in the country, right here in San Francisco. I want to thank everyone for being here today to celebrate City Hall's annual LGBT Pride Month kickoff and flag raising. Such a beautiful ceremony and symbol of our resiliency and strength. Although this year event looks different, we're still coming together to celebrate Pride and share our commitment for the continued fight for LGBT equality. I want to thank SF Pride and everyone who helped to make today happen and possible as we come together to celebrate Pride Month and reopen City Hall. Special thank you to Mayor London Breed for hosting us and being our fierce elected leader through this pandemic, and all of our LGBT department heads and city staff who have fought over the last year to address this pandemic. We also want to thank our consulate generals from Ukraine, Israel, Netherlands, and Finland for joining us today to share their global support for LGBT equality. Thank you. Also, very special thanks to our performers, the Gay and Lesbian Freedom Band, the official band of San Francisco, and Leanne Borgarsi, and also the beautiful voice of Breanna Sinclairé, who can sing a cappella even without a mic when it goes out. Breanna. Also, we want to thank all of the LGBT community organizations, city staff who've worked tirelessly over the last year to stop this deadly pandemic. From day one, the community has worked on the front lines to make sure that we stay safe, get tested, and get vaccinated. Community testing clinics, mutual aid efforts to support those most impacted. Thank you to Aria Saeed and the whole team at the Transgender District for their incredible work, making sure that folks are getting tested in the Tenderloin. Our vaccine drives with our partners with AIDS Healthcare Foundation, Trans Mental Health Services and Wellness through Lion Martin, and critical service for our LGBT seniors, from food delivery to virtual calls to prescription pickups and more. Last month, we launched our Vaccine Pride campaign, and thanks to all of you and Mayor Breed's leadership, we have the highest rates of vaccinations in the country. Congratulations, San Francisco. Mayor Breed, from day one of the pandemic, continued to prioritize equity and inclusion in the city's COVID response. Although this last year has been hard, we never gave up, because that is who we are, right, San Francisco? Right? I am so grateful for our city and the residents who did their part to keep themselves safe and one another. Now we can come together and celebrate our reopening and build towards a stronger, more equitable future. This would not be possible without our incredible mayor, who, despite this terrible pandemic, has built forward our economic recovery and is investing in LGBT community like no other leader. So please join me in welcoming our mayor, San Francisco Mayor London Breed.
Thank you, Claire. And I just want to say to Claire Farley, who is the leader of the Office of Transgender Initiatives, she has really taken that role to a whole nother level and is currently a Grand Marshal for this year's SF Pride. So congratulations, Claire. And when I say taking it to a whole nother level, not only did we launch 2 years ago Trans Home SF to provide subsidies to brothers and sisters in our trans community, but this year we're doing one of the first anywhere. We're always doing the first of something, but a guaranteed income for people who are part of our trans community. So finally, universal basic income. It is in this year's budget. So Supervisor Mandelman will be contacting you and the other members of the board to make sure we keep it there. A lot of great things happening in San Francisco. Happy Pride, everybody! Over 50 years, San Francisco has celebrated Pride, which is so significant, especially in light of what we just went through in this pandemic. And during the course of this pandemic, you oftentimes would hear officials talk about how we have weathered this storm. There is no coincidence that San Francisco is leading the country when it comes to the number of cases, when it comes to the ability to get people vaccinated. What we have done here has everything to do with the challenges that we faced in the 80s during the AIDS crisis. And the fact is, at the forefront of this pandemic and helping to lead our Department of Public Health just so happens to be a gay man, Dr. Grant Colfax. Thank you so much for your leadership. I don't know if he's here today. He's probably taking a rest or a break because he probably hasn't had any time off since this pandemic, but we want to thank him. He was here in the 80s and he's here for us now, and he has been an incredible leader, incredible source of inspiration, although I would drive him crazy with my phone calls. Dr. Colfax, can we please open? Can we please open? And Mary Ellen Carroll, thank you so much for being here as well. Two amazing people leading this response. And I know there's been a lot of uncertainty. What's going to happen on June 15th? Well, what's going to happen is we're opening San Francisco officially on June 15th. As long as the state gives us the ability to do so. But large-scale events will continue to be challenging, the large events. So when you party, get vaccinated, that's right. When you party, make sure you try to do your best to party with a mask on. Sip and mask, sip and mask, sip and mask. Anyway, here in San Francisco, we've already, as of June 1st, launched Pride in our city. You see the flags and the beautiful colors going up. I'm looking forward to seeing these colors not just signify when we can open during the pandemic, but signify pride at its absolute best. San Francisco is bright and beautiful, and we plan to celebrate like no other while making sure that we're continuing to keep one another safe, because we're still in this pandemic, although shoot, I'm tired of saying we're still in this pandemic. I'm ready to party myself. Let me just say to the elected officials that we have here today, to so many of the commissioners, to many of our department heads, we are so grateful for all of you and your leadership, not just through this pandemic, but celebrating, supporting, and uplifting our LGBTQ community in San Francisco. If it were not for the partnership that exists, the resources we invest, the work that we continue to do, it would be very difficult to do it. And of course, it also involves people who are a part of the community, who are advocating for those resources, who are making sure that we are not just talking about supporting this community, we're actually putting our money where our mouth is by investing the necessary resources. And here in San Francisco, when I think about our rich history, of course, includes our LGBT community. It's not just about being a part of the history of San Francisco, but the history here in San Francisco is what everyone takes and uses and discusses and talks about and reads about. It is all started here in San Francisco. We just were at the Castro, at the GLBT Museum, unveiling one of the original flags that Gilbert Baker created as a symbol of hope, and it has carried around the world. This flag has been that symbol, and it started right here in San Francisco. The work we've done around research and the AIDS crisis, the Pink Triangle with Patrick Carney, where it would be not just lit up for one night, but it will be lit up for the entire month of June to celebrate Pride Month. Think about it. And the official band of San Francisco, the Lesbian and Gay Freedom Band. We have a rich history in San Francisco, but what we also need is an appropriate place to celebrate and uplift and to remember and to remind ourselves of that rich history. And this is why it was so important that I, along with Supervisor Mandelman, invest $12 million to make sure that we have the appropriate LGBT museum in our city. And our Senator Scott Wiener, I know, is going to get us some of that extra money they have in the state. Senator Wiener, we can count on you, right? You know, he doesn't mess around when it comes to getting resources for San Francisco, so we're so grateful for his leadership. But so many great things, such an exciting time. And I'm looking forward to you know, people are talking about, well, next year, the parade and everything else. So I'm looking forward to the parade. But you know what? I'm going to celebrate like it's 1999, 2021. I'm going to celebrate now because my girls, Melanie and Melora Green, they're grand marshals. We're going to have a party on our block. Is that okay, Carol? Yeah. Thank you to Carolyn Weisinger and thank you to Fred Lopez for the work that they're doing for SF Pride. So many amazing people that are joining us here today. And I am looking forward to making sure that San Francisco comes back alive. And coming back, what better way than to open up the month of June as we begin to open San Francisco to celebrate Pride. This is really one of my favorite times of year. And you know what? We're going to celebrate. We're going to have a good time. We're going to keep smiles on our faces because we survived a pandemic, y'all. And we're still here. And we're still kicking. City Hall is open. Today I'm going to perform some marriage ceremonies. Who wants to get married? Anybody? No? I got benefits. I work for the city. Anyway, thank you all. Now y'all want me. Now y'all want me. Okay. But happy Pride, everyone. Thank you all so much for celebrating in San Francisco. And I'm going to turn it back over to Claire. It is just so wonderful to be here. Such an honor to be your mayor. I'm feeling so good about what we've accomplished during this pandemic, and we wouldn't have been able to do that without so many of you. So thank you for keeping us safe. Let's celebrate Pride. Let's enjoy San Francisco. Let's come alive again. Thank you.
Give it up for Mayor Breed. Thank you so much, Mayor. Now it's my honor to introduce two people who are behind SF Pride. Fred Lopez and Carolyn Weisinger, the board president of SF Pride, have done so much work over the last year and a half to transition what Pride looks like. From Pride at Home last year till today, where we're coming together again to celebrate the strength and resiliency of our city. Please join me in welcoming Fred and Carolyn to the stage.
Hello, good morning, everybody. Happy Pride. Thank you so much to everybody. So many amazing people behind me. Thank you to the mayor, of course, for kicking us off in just the best possible way. Senator Wiener, Supervisor Mandelman, gosh, and the list goes on and on. Juanita, good morning, hello. It really does feel like Pride, doesn't it? Yeah. The city is coming back to life. The rainbow flags are up and down Market Street. And really looking at all of you this morning, I am hopeful. I'm filled with hope. We all know, we just spoke a little bit about how difficult the last 16 months have been, but we can see that the end is near. And you know why that is? It's because we, as San Francisco, we never lost hope. Today, we raise a flag first unveiled in 1978. And back then, it was called the Gay Freedom Day Parade. And later that same year, unfortunately, as we know, Harvey Milk and Mayor Moscone were assassinated. So after the bright spark of the parade and those amazing photos of Harvey Milk riding on the top of the car and waving at everybody, after that bright spark came some very, very dark moments in our city's history. But our communities never lost hope. And so, 4 decades later, the flag is an international symbol of joy, of resistance, of visibility, of hope, and of queerness itself. So let's give it up for the rainbow flag. As mentioned, this is the second year that we at San Francisco Pride have been unable to produce our traditional parade and celebration. Hundreds of thousands of people on Market Street, almost just as many right here in Civic Center. Usually there's a stage going up right here in front of us. But you know, nonetheless, even though we're not gathering in the way that we have in the past, my heart is still filled with hope. This year at San Francisco Pride, we've named some amazing grand marshals, some of whom are here: Melanie Malora, Claire Farley, Joe from the Oakland LGBT Community Center, Akira, and you know, they are the epitome of the great things that queer San Francisco is capable of, and we are doing it. The Pink Triangle is lit. Thank you, Patrick, and everybody at Illuminate. Get out after sunset and see the Pink Triangle. It's amazing that it's lit for an entire month, reminding us all of the dark past that we've come from, and also inspiring us to think of how amazing our communities continue to be. I want to thank Mayor Breed for the great effort that the city goes to every year to display our pride, from the rainbow flag right above me to the lights on City Hall, which also feature the colors of the trans flag. Let's hear it for the trans flag. Some right over there, yes. And I also want to thank all the people in the city agencies and departments who make those efforts a reality. There's too many of you to name, but you all are so important to keeping our city inspired. Thank all of you as well for being here today and for joining in this celebration of Pride. I want to make sure to invite you all to join San Francisco Pride at our very first ever Pride celebration at Oracle Park. We have some great partners in the San Francisco Giants as well as Frameline. It's happening this weekend, Friday and Saturday, June 11th and 12th. You know what? It's not only a movie that we're screening, we're screening two movies rather, In the Heights on Friday, and everybody's talking about Jamie on Saturday. However, before the movies even begin, we are bringing the spirit of the Pride Parade to Oracle Park. So come on down. There will be grand marshals, there will be drag, there will be performances, there will be the dykes on bikes. So everything that you are missing, you will see there. So come down. Tickets are available at sfpride.org. We can't wait to see you all there. Lastly, we're all here because, like I said before, we've all remained hopeful. So let's treat each other with respect, with dignity, and especially now as we're reopening the city of San Francisco, with compassion during this Pride season. So continue with me to be beacons of hope for the entire world, and soon enough, we will be back on Market Street in the tens of thousands, shouting and hugging and loving. Happy Pride, everybody. Carolyn?
I get to speak now?
Yeah, you want to.
Thank you so much, Fred. Thank you, Mayor Breed. I'm going to do something, and a couple of people in this crowd will know how to do it. Melanie Malora, that's you. I want everyone in here, turn and look at your neighbor. Look at your neighbor and tell them, we made it. And if you didn't know what I was going to tell you to do, turn and look at your other neighbor and say, we survived. This is church. I said something. I knew you would know, Mayor Breed. I said some people would know. You know, and I'm going to be very careful with my words. I stood here on February of 2020, and I made this big, grand speech about how hard it was to get to 50, and then the Lord sent us a pandemic. And I just want to say, on behalf of the board and staff of San Francisco Pride, we understand that we are not Pride. You can't cancel Pride. Pride is who we are in our hearts. Pride is our community. But we also understand that we are the ones that galvanize that every year, and we want to thank you for supporting us through not being able to bring you here to Market Street, not being able to bring you here at Civic Center, and really making sure that we will be here to survive for 2022. I had the opportunity this weekend. I got fussed at a little bit by Trayvon Martin's mother, Sabrina Fulton. If you know me personally, you know me getting fussed at was not a shocker. But the bottom line of what she said to me is that our thing, we're all in this together. She said, you know, you've never lost a child, you've never lost a family member, but here you are in 100-degree heat marching with us to support our families. And she said, you need to make sure that next year when there is a parade, that I can be there to support you, because we are all in this together. Battling systemic oppression, breaking policies, breaking generational curses. We are all, as marginalized people, everyone in here is some sort of marginalized person. We are literally all in this together. So I want to make sure that we keep that in mind as we do come to Pride movie night this weekend, because we really, really want to continue. But as we continue to support each other, we're all in this together, and we all have to continue to support each other. Thank you so much. Happy Pride.
Thank you so much, Fred and Carolyn. Thank you, SF Pride and the board and all the members for your ongoing work. Next, it's my honor to introduce one of our Grand Marshals this year, Akira Jackson, Executive Director of Taj's Coalition, who's going to share a few words in honor of the Grand Marshals this year and her ongoing work to end violence against the trans community. Please welcome Akira Jackson.
I think it's evening or afternoon, or is it still morning time? We still in the morning? Oh, okay. Good morning, everybody. My name is Akira Jackson. Right? Body. Y'all so silly. Yeah, I'm tall. Yeah. I had to say that. I'm all squinching down. Good morning, everybody, and thank y'all for coming out. I can't believe, it's 51 years of Pride. And I honestly, as the mayor was saying, we're ready to go back and, socialize and probably have a drink without the mask on. We're so ready for it. But at Taj's, what we say is that we're coming out of COVID. So maybe that's something y'all can take back with y'all, that we're coming out of COVID. What we're doing right now is just the cusp of us actually being back in person. And the things I'm just so grateful to actually have been to be a Grand Marshal for Pride. I feel like a lot of my awards and stuff has happened in COVID, so it's just been really hard for me to actually just share this experience with everyone. But we did make the best with it, with the Zooms and the endless Zooms and the endless Zooms. But I'm so thankful for y'all being out. I'm gonna be at every event that we have, just supporting, so I would love to see y'all faces. And like I said, happy Pride, everybody. I'm hot, so I'm ready to go.
Thank you so much, Akira. Now it's my honor to invite two legislators up here. First is Senator Scott Wiener, who is doing incredible work on the state level to advance LGBT equality and important bills to support our transgender community, as well as our only out gay supervisor here in San Francisco, Supervisor Raphael Mandolin. Please give them a hand.
Thank you, Claire. Madam Mayor, I think we're all proud of our vaccination rate, but I have to say, it's been a team effort getting vaccinated, but no one loves vaccines more than LGBTQ people. We love our vaccines. We're already when can we get our booster shot? Because we think back to what would have happened if we had had a vaccine within 1 year of learning about HIV. And how many people would be alive today if society had taken our community as seriously as it took COVID-19. So we got to get vaccinated. I know we're going to continue to lead the nation there. So happy Pride, everyone. And I want to really just thank the Pride Committee for persevering. This has been a hard couple of years for Pride. And we're going to have a parade next year, and I'm so excited about that. I'm excited about the movie night. But these folks have just been working so hard to make sure that Pride can move forward. And let's hear it for our Pride Committee. And as we must every year during Pride, it's a time of optimism, of being optimistic that we're going to be able to tackle the huge challenges facing our community, the firefighters. Because we still have big challenges. And we look what's happening right now, that almost half of all homeless youth are LGBTQ. When we look at what's happening with our trans kids, they are already at heightened risk for suicide and for becoming homeless. And we have around the country attacks on our trans kids that are not allowed to play sports or to use the restroom or can't get health care. That has an impact on our kids, and we need to stick up for our kids. We know that people are still getting sick and dying of HIV 40 years into this pandemic. And so we are working very hard. I know the mayor and Supervisor Mandelman, the Board of Supervisors are working so hard. We're working hard at the state level to have California go in the opposite direction. We are this year making a historic investment in housing for our most at-risk youth, those exiting foster care and the criminal justice system, our homeless youth, by investing $250 million in housing for our most at-risk youth. We're making a historic investment to model the state on what San Francisco has done to tank new HIV infections with our Ending the Epidemics investment in this year's budget. We are making a historic investment specifically in the health and well-being of the trans community, which California has never done before. Not overall healthcare access and people can just sort of fight for whatever they can get. Specific funding for the health and well-being of trans people from the state of California. And so, a lot of work to do, a lot of nastiness and anger and hostility towards our community around the country, around the world, but we're going to continue to lead here in California to support our entire community. So happy Pride, everyone.
It's always funny to speak after Scott. You take the microphone way down. I'm Raphael Mandelman, the District 8 Supervisor, the queer on the Board of Supervisors, and I also want to echo the thanks that have already been extended to Fred and Carolyn and the entire Pride Board and Pride team for getting us through an awful, awful year last year and a better year this year, and doing it virtually and figuring out all the different ways with limited in person, totally virtual, all the alternatives. Thank you so much. Next year's going to be the best Pride ever. But this is already a pretty damn good one. And for me, it actually started a little bit before June. It kind of started around the Harvey Milk birthday. Shortly thereafter, we learned that we had developers for the 1939 Market Street senior housing development, which was put into the budget by the mayor a couple years back. And I see Marcy Edelman here and a crew of the folks who have been talking about senior LGBT aging stuff in Marcy's case, 20 plus years. And I remember meeting with Marcy about 20 years ago when I was a baby lawyer doing affordable housing, and Marcy and her wife had this vision for LGBTQ senior housing, and you've made it real. Thank you, Marcy. Thank you, Madam Mayor. With this, we'll get up to 250 units, and then we just need to, do that about 10 times more, and we'll be good. So, but also, Marcy and Open House have had and Daniel Redmond is here, and Tom Nolan, all the people who do and Kaushik Roy, all the people who do the work of thinking through what to do with an aging population that 20 or 30 years ago, many of these folks didn't know they would be aging. And that it is wonderful to have this challenge. And thank you, Madam Mayor, for your investment in this year's budget in mental health resources for folks in that aging population. Critically important. And we're going to get a museum. And we're making nowhere else in the world investments in our trans community. Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's a great, fantastic start to Pride. I'm super excited, and it's great to have the building open. Happy. And before I go, I want to acknowledge my colleague, Myrna Melgar, who's here from the board. Not queer, but has a queer daughter, and shows up to lots of the queer stuff, and is a fantastic colleague. Thank you, and happy Pride, everyone.
Thank you so much, Scott and Supervisor Mandelman. We also have some really incredible department heads here, and then we have our last speaker. Thank you so much to Chief Janine Nicholson for being here. The first LGBT chief. Jeff Tolman from SFMTA. Carolyn Ising from our Department of Human Resources. And so many other amazing community leaders. Thank you all so much for being here. So now it's my honor, let me get my notes, to introduce an incredible leader who's doing work on the national stage. Please join me in welcoming Amani Rupert Gordon, Executive Director of NCLR.
Good morning, everyone, and happy Pride. I'd like to thank Mayor Breed and the Office of Transgender Initiatives for allowing me to participate in this occasion. There was a time when not so long ago that people that lived like us and loved like us and looked like us we couldn't live our truths. We had to live in the shadows. We didn't get to see our flag raised at City Hall, and so I'm proud today. And as honored as I am to live in a city with that kind of vision, it doesn't take long to realize that not every LGBTQ person has that experience in this country. This legislative session has introduced more than 250 anti-LGBTQ bills. And while these horrible and discriminatory bills hurt everyone, they have serious implications for transgender kids. Keeping trans kids from playing sports and receiving the medical care they need, it's not just cruel, it's unethical, and it's unlawful. Right now, organizations across the country are coming together to say that this isn't right. And I'm proud that NCLR is one of the organizations leading this fight. And we all, thank you. And we all need to do the same thing. We need to show up for transgender kids and say that these bills do not determine your worth. We need to show these beautiful trans kids that we are fighting for a world that doesn't just let them live, but lets them strive. Let's show them that they shouldn't have to fight, but let's also show them that they're worth fighting for. I'm standing in front of you right now, and this is the very first time that I'm speaking in person since I've started at NCLR. Happy Pride. Well, thank you. I started my role at the start of this pandemic, and in many ways it upended everything that I knew was true. But in some ways it crystallized what I know is right. And that is that we are all better when we are all better. This global pandemic has reminded us that our health is tied to each other. And if your health is tied to mine like mine is to yours, then so too must our collective liberation and freedom. And this is why we need the Equality Act. In 29 states, the LGBTQ people do not have the protections we need, and we face discrimination. And this matters because just last year in 2020, 1 in 3 LGBTQ people experienced discrimination, and nearly 2 in 3 transgender people face discrimination. The Equality Act would provide federal legal protections for all LGBTQ people, and that would make every single person safer. So I'm thrilled that we get to celebrate every June. And it's okay that our Pride looks different this year, because we have to remember that our Pride wasn't created to be floats and parades. Our Pride was started by the trailblazing transgender women of color that told us that we deserve better. We deserve access, we deserve freedom, and we deserve equality. Because of these visionaries and the work of activists and organizers, our brave legislators and elected officials, and the organizations that make our lives better, we have a reason to celebrate. But let's do one better this year. Let's fight more. Let's fight for better, because we deserve it. Let's remember that LGBTQ equality isn't separate from racial justice and gender justice. Let's remember that our fight is an intersectional one. Let's leave this world better than when we found it. I am so happy to be in your presence this morning. I wish you all a beautiful and transformative summer. Happy Pride, everyone.
Thank you, Imani.
Thank you, Amani. And also, we want to make sure to honor our city administrator, Carmen Chu, and Jose Cisnera, our treasurer, and our assessor recorder, Joaquin Torres, behind Scott. And also, before we wrap, we want to make sure to give a certificate of honor to all of our Pride Grand Marshals, as well as proclaim today Pride Month in San Francisco. So, Mayor, please join me.
Thank you. Amani, I hope you're not trying to take away my float now. I like to party during the parade. Thank you. On behalf of the City and County of San Francisco, I, as the mayor, declare the entire month of June SF Pride Month in the City and County of San Francisco. Fred and Carolyn, come on up. And at this time, I want to bring up all the Grand Marshals to honor them for their work that they do in the LGBTQ community of San Francisco. And at this time, Carolyn, let's announce the names and then we'll hand out their certificates. Yes. You're in charge of the Pride Parade.
Am I the mayor of San Francisco for 5 minutes? Okay.
For 5 minutes.
For 5
you can be
minutes.
deputy.
Okay. I want to present the first to my good friends, and they need to be together. So where's the other one?
They the twins.
They're always together. When they were nominated, we were asked, are they, those are two people. And I said, when you get one, you get the other. So Melanie and Melora Green are community elected Grand Marshals.
Get this picture right
Akira Jackson, another community elected Grand Marshal. Joe Hawkins and the Oakland LGBTQ Community Center, community elected organizational Grand Marshals. And not here, we do also have Maury Reardon, who was another board elected Grand Marshal, as well as Nicole Santa Maria. And I take this from you and then I give it back to you. Claire Farley, our board elected Grand Marshal. Yes. Are we gonna take a picture now? Am I still the mayor now?
We're going to take a picture.
Okay.
Deputy mayor. Deputy.
Okay.
Taking that claim.
No.
All right. We need some music now. Let's celebrate San Fran! Thank you. Happy Pride